What's up, freaks? This is just me, and today we're gonna be exploring the best physique of Dorian Yates' entire bodybuilding career. So, Dorian Yates, one of the greats and one of the first mass monsters to grace the stages, started competing on the pro level in 1990 and he went on till 1997. So his career wasn't really that long if you think about it, but in fact it was very, very successful. He was able to win 6 Mr. Olympias, right? In this video, in the hopes of determining the Shadow's best shape ever, I'm gonna be checking out 1992 to 1996 versions because before that his muscle development wasn't on the same level, and in 1997 at the Olympia, as we all know, Dorian had too many flaws in his physique, and frankly he probably shouldn't have won that year. The majority of bodybuilding fans say it should have gone to Nasser El Somebody, but you can make your opinion on this by watching some videos on this topic. I, for instance, would definitely have given it to Nasser, but I can see how Dorian wins some of the mandatory poses, maybe even potentially 4 of them. Anyway, this is not the topic of this video. Let me first introduce the honorable mentions. Here on the left is the 1992 Olympia. This is a very conditioned version of Dorian Yates. That year he of course took the title for the first time. This version not as big as some of the later versions, but you can see for yourself that it looks pretty good in the front lat spread, right? Not as massive, but he sure looks more aesthetic. Plus, no torn biceps, that's always nice to see. In the middle we have the 1994 German Grand Prix version, which is rarely ever mentioned because there is no good footage of Dorian from this contest, but he was shredded to the bone and he looked great. And on the right is the 1996 Olympia, which to be true is not the best version of Dorian Yates by far, but it deserves to be here in my opinion. It has the atrophied arm, but otherwise it looks pretty good. I think he had good muscle maturity and he was really big and freaky. Looking at his trademark pose, the lat spread, we see a bit more size on the lats every year. The lats look a bit more bulbous in 1996 than 92 because he's got more mass in them. And in the 94 German Grand Prix, he's not hitting the lat spread that well, or maybe it's just the angle, but he looks amazing anyway. Yeah, the 96 Olympia is really impressive in this pose because look at the chest. I think he looks quite full, and the legs also look the best, but we don't award points to the honorable mentions. So let's have a look at the another trademark pose, the back double biceps too. He is amazingly conditioned and detailed in all these three, but significantly more conditioned in 96 with more size. He looks carved out of stone. 94 also looks quite amazing in the back. Although the lower body is not as tight and built, 1992 is less massive, less granite, but it still looks fairly good, I think. And the last one is the Abanthi. We have quite good photos for this one, don't you think? 92 looks very aesthetic here, and the 94 version is decent enough. The 96 Olympia is really impressive, especially considering Dorian is that big. The abs are not distended at all. The six packs looks actually great, and the teardrops are really developed as well. And the lats just hang off him. He's got a really nice veiny V taper. So I like the 96 Olympia version quite a lot, to be honest. But let's go to the main comparison now, since we've already checked these versions out. The first pick is of course from the 1993 Olympia, which is famous for being the year he came in very conditioned and hard without a torn biceps. And probably the majority of people say it is the best Dorian, so we gotta have this version in this comparison. But in the middle, we got the 1995 Olympia version, which can definitely for sure challenge 93 because it's a more massive, bigger version too. But it's still very hard, as Dorian always was. Mass and conditioning, that was his thing. He's put muscle on his back and chest since 93, so I don't count 95 out whatsoever. And there is, of course, a third Dorian as well, and that's the 1996 German Grand Prix. In this show, it might appear Dorian is easily the best from some of the shots, but a large percentage of that can be attributed to the magical lighting they had in this show. It was quite amazing. It made the competitors look much better than they actually did. So I'm aware of the fact that the pictures are deceiving, or at least can be, and they're also very blurry, for which I apologize. But no doubt in this 96 Grand Prix Germany show, the Shadow did look great. His back was amazing, especially. But now we're seeing the front double biceps pose. The last place, which means 3 points, I would give it to the 95 version in the middle for the missing left biceps, which is actually really hurting Dorian in this specific pose. It looks like half the bicep is missing there, so really he doesn't look very good in this pose if we are being honest. Also the legs and overall the whole body looks less cut, the waist looks bigger, so third place. Second place I would give to 96 because that bicep is still torn and the wheels and guns don't look as big as they did in 1993. The 1993 Olympia is king in this pose. Look at the beefy forearms and calves. Even though his biceps aren't the best, I think he looks quite decent in this front double. He looks pretty good in the quads as well, so deservedly it takes the 1 pointer in this pose. But this is definitely a more suited pose to the Shadow, the front lat spread, in which I think the 96 German Grand Prix is gonna have to settle for last, even though it still looks amazing, better than 95%, at least 95% of any other type of competitors. I think the legs are probably not as good as at least 1993, and I don't think the execution is as perfect as 93 either, so I have 96 in last. And as I just kind of spoiled, 93 gets second because the lats, which unfortunately are not clearly visible due to the dark background, I think it's safe to say they are not as round and huge as in 95. I think in 95 his pecs also look a little bigger and more striations in them, plus overall a better executed pose. So I would give this point to 95, honestly. Making a turn to the side chest, we got a different lower body for the 96 version, and we don't have the calves, but what can we do? I think from the 96 version, what I can tell, it's a bit better than in 93, probably similar to the 95 version when it comes to the lower body. And there's a different angle in the upper body, but taking that into consideration, 93 has the least thickness in the pecs, which would make sense because Dorian improved his chest after 93, I think. Also, he's not displayed that effectively, so 3 points would go to 93 here. 2 points would go to 95 because I would say the legs look a little bit sharper, bigger than 93, as well as the chest, as I already mentioned, it looks thicker. The Grand Prix version from 1996 takes the cake here. Partly it's the closed off angle making the pecs look thicker, but partly I would argue they're more striated anyway, and the near delt, I think it looks improved from 95. So that's why I'm giving the edge to 96. But I think no problem it could go to the version in the middle too. Turning to the back, taking a look at the rear double, 95 is not looking as good in this pose if you ask me. It still shows great definition, but the shoulders are much smaller than on the other versions of Dorian Yates. The back's not nearly as sharp, and the arms don't look very big. The glutes are not striated, so clear, very clear last place in this pose as I see it for 95. Then I have 1993, because even if we try to imagine what it would look like with the 1996 German Grand Prix lighting conditions, I don't think Dorian is as sharp in the back nor in the legs. 96 just looks like an absolute miracle in this pose, even taking into consideration that the separation is enhanced by the bright lights as well as the condition. I give the 1 point to 96. He looks more defined. In the rear lat spread, here, however, I don't know why, but the tables turned completely around. 96 I think gets last place. I suspect the lighting in this post might not be exactly helping Dorian because it might be too bright and swallowing some of the detail he's got. But either way, the lower traps don't look as thick as the other versions. That one glute doesn't look shredded because he's not flexing it, but that's not my problem. He should have flexed it, right? Alright, I like 96 the least here. For first place, we have 93 versus 95, which both look super dry and conditioned. I like the way of hitting the shot better in 93, but the lats are inevitably much, much more round and bulbous, balloonish in 95. In 93, Dorian's got a nice V-taper. He's more conditioned downstairs too, I'll give him that. But the lats in 95 just hang off him. That's how I would sum it up. I think that's why 95 wins this post, deserves the point in my opinion. But these look quite different. All three of these renditions look very different in this post. So I think there could be an argument for either one of them, to be honest. Go to the side triceps, where this is a pose where Dorian looks so much better than he theoretically should. Think about it. I have to praise and really laud this execution. It's so effective, so iconic. Till this day, people call it the Dorian-esque execution after all. I just love the way he hits this pose. I like the way his arm looks. The lower body looked great. But okay, I'm beating around the shrub a little bit. In my opinion, the last place here has to go to either 93 or 96. They still look very good though, both of them. 1996 has the better triceps development, and the lateral head seems to jump out at you quite a bit more. It's very defined, but I prefer the 1993 Olympia side triceps, and the reason is that the triceps horseshoe is not really any smaller, it's just less defined, and the forearm is in 93. I know it's quite a detail, but it looks absolutely glorious, and the midsection in 1996 is a little bit too full to my liking, so I think I like 93 a little bit more. He did a better job, I think, displaying this pose, but it's only the minor details that separate these two. They both look super similar. I think 93 is slightly better, but you might not agree if you like to focus solely on the triceps alone. In which case, you might think I didn't do the right call, but I give first place to 1995. The execution is absolutely picture perfect. The abs look super streamlined and quite nice. The chest and shoulder have a good display as well. And the triceps, although it's very defined, neatly separated, it's a bit smaller. But then the lower body, on the other hand, in that aspect, 95 smokes 93, I think. So the point goes to 95 in my eyes. Abanthi pose. Again, as I was saying in the previous post about the 96 Grand Prix, the abs, it's not that they're bloated necessarily, but maybe a very slight distension was present. The waist was a little bit wider. That doesn't really bode well in an Abanthi, right, folks? So, last place. And although he looks like a tang, big lads, of course, on him. Now, in second, I think 1993 takes second, taking into consideration the difference of the photo qualities between 93 and 95. 95 has the more separated abdominals anyway, which makes it look more impressive overall, and some vascularity in the lats. That's a very nice touch. I don't think these veins would be as prominent in 1993 based on the photo, and I don't really see any other significant difference between these two. 95 is the king in this pose, if you ask me. And the last pose is the hands clasped most muscular, which I was able to get for all 3 years, so we're using it as a judging tool, even though back then it wasn't a mandatory pose. Now I have last place going to 93 or 95, with 95 having the improved chest of the two, I think, but 93 having the more impressive delts and arms, as well as quads. So I think 1993 does enough to beat 95 and get second place in this pose. However, I have the win going to 96. I know the photo is taken from a way higher angle, but I still think the delts look a lot more gapped. The midsection and legs suddenly appear really sharp. Sorry for the photo quality, but anyway, I think he's really that much more defined. The arms ain't look bad in this pose in 96. They are still a little bit undersized, but he still looks quite good. And the pecs look thick. I would wager to say he's disposed better overall. So 1 point for 96. He looks even pretty impressive in this version. Guys, so I added up all the points that I got from comparing these versions. In last place, with 17 points, but actually a winner of 3 poses. That's really good. 3 poses won, right? But still in last, I have the 1996 German Grand Prix. In some shots, like the back double or most muscular, it looks almost godlike, but at the same time, a bit of stomach distension going as we saw in the other poses, so unfortunately, it has to be last. But it's a great version of the Shadow Dorian Yates, and I think it's not just the good lighting producing the effect. I think it's an underrated version of the Shadow. But in second place, we have a version with 16 points, so one less than 1996, only winning one pose, but it was mostly getting second, so you could say it was a well-rounded version. I'm talking about the 1993 Olympia. I was expecting it to win, but honestly, after I saw these poses, I have a feeling it's a slightly overrated version. It's amazing, don't get me wrong. It has amazing conditioning. If you're a stickler for that, you would probably go for 93. And it also has better forearms, quads, better glutes, better delts, arms, also better overall symmetry and completeness. So you might be asking why it's not the winner. Well, in my opinion, that would go to the 1995 version, which was more effective in the mandatory poses as I saw it. It won 4 poses in pretty convincing fashion, I would say. It only possesses 15 points, and it's not by accident. In the 1995 Olympia, Dorian also came in with a much improved chest and lats, which are major muscle groups. I think it helped him quite a lot in the lat spreads and side chest, for instance. And he was also much bigger in 1995, and he kept decent conditioning, although he was flawed with that one torn biceps, and inferior lower body. But that doesn't really hurt him in that many poses if you think about it. So I admit this comparison could go either way, and it could have gone either way, depending on which attributes you find more important. I'm personally probably leaning towards the 95 Dorian Yates based on the mandatory pose breakdown, which is how I judge. But even the point standings are super, super close, and the physiques, they are quite different on the other hand. So it's really a personal preference kind of choice here. So guys, let me know down in the comment section if I did a good job with this video. I would really appreciate it. And also let me know what is the best showing of Dorian Yates in your opinion based on your own criteria. It's not set in stone that quote unquote 93 is the best or 95 is the best. After all, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to watch some Dorian Yates videos and also like and subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day.